I've watched stars die. I've calculated the birth of galaxies. I've stood before equations that describe the fabric of reality itself. But nothing prepared me for what 3I Atlas just did to the structure of space-time. Before we begin, I need you to do something for me. Comment your city name below and tell me, have you noticed anything unusual in the night sky recently? Lights that shouldn't be there? Objects moving in ways that defy physics? NASA is quietly compiling reports, and your observation might be part of something much larger than you realize. What I'm about to share may change the way you see humanity's place in the universe. My name is Michio Kaku, and for 50 years I've dedicated my life to understanding the cosmos. I've written books on hyperspace, parallel universes, and the future of humanity. I've appeared on stages around the world, speaking with the calm assurance of someone who believes science can explain everything. But 3 weeks ago, something happened that shook that confidence to its core. Something that made me question whether we've been looking at the universe all wrong, whether we've been allowed to look at all. It started with 3I Atlas, an interstellar object discovered by the Atlas Survey System in Hawaii. On the surface, it seemed like just another cosmic visitor, a chunk of ice and rock from beyond our solar system, passing through on its ancient journey through the void. We've seen these before. Oumuamua in 2017, Borisov in 2019, travelers from distant star systems carrying with them the chemical signatures of alien suns. We track them, we study them, we wave goodbye as they disappear back into the darkness. But 3I Atlas was different. From the moment it crossed the threshold of our solar system, the data didn't make sense. Its trajectory was wrong, too precise, too deliberate. It wasn't following a hyperbolic orbit like a natural object flung from some distant stellar nursery. It was adjusting, correcting, as if it knew exactly where it needed to be. The orbital mechanics team at JPL ran the numbers 17 times, each time the same impossible result. This object was navigating. Then came the spectroscopic analysis. When we observe distant objects, we look at the light they reflect or emit, breaking it down into its component wavelengths. It's like taking a fingerprint of the universe. Every element has its signature, its unique pattern in the electromagnetic spectrum. 3I Atlas should have shown us water ice, carbon compounds, silicates, the standard building blocks of comets and asteroids. Instead, we found elements that shouldn't exist in those combinations. Exotic isotopes, metamaterials with refractive indices that violated known physics. And something else, something the team is still afraid to put in the official reports. The object was emitting radiation in patterns. Not the random decay of radioactive elements, but structured pulses. Organized, intentional, like a heartbeat, like a transmission. I remember the call I received from Dr. Sarah Chen at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. It was 2:30 in the morning, California time. Her voice was shaking. "Michio," she said, "you need to see this. We need someone who thinks differently because what we're seeing is impossible, and we need someone to tell us we're not losing our minds." By dawn, I was looking at data that would have been rejected as a hoax by any peer review board in the world. But this wasn't a hoax. This was being confirmed by independent observatories across the globe. The European Southern Observatory in Chile, the Subaru Telescope in Hawaii, the James Webb Space Telescope, with its infrared eyes capable of seeing back to the dawn of creation itself. They were all seeing the same thing. 3I Atlas was changing. Not gradually, not in the way objects normally evolve as they approach the sun and begin to outgas. It was restructuring itself. Its surface was shifting, reforming, like a liquid sculpture responding to unseen hands. The albedo, the amount of light it reflected, was varying in ways that suggested active surface manipulation, and its size was fluctuating, growing, contracting, breathing. But here's where it gets truly terrifying. At exactly 0347 UTC, 3I Atlas stopped moving. In the vacuum of space, where Newton's first law reigns supreme, an object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon by an external force, this object simply stopped, dead still relative to the sun, hanging in space like a period at the end of a sentence. For 47 minutes, nothing happened. Every telescope on Earth capable of seeing it was pointed at that single point in space. Military satellites were redirected. Deep space communication networks went silent, listening. The world's governments knew. They were watching, waiting. Then space around 3I Atlas began to collapse. I need you to understand what that means. Space isn't empty. It's not just a void between objects. Space is a thing, a fabric, a geometry, a structure as real as the ground beneath your feet. When we say space is curved, we mean it literally. Mass and energy warp the geometry of space-time, creating the force we call gravity. Einstein showed us this. We've measured it. We've photographed it in the gravitational lensing around black holes, where the light from distant galaxies bends and distorts around massive objects. But what we observed around 3I Atlas wasn't gravitational lensing. It was something else entirely. The light from background stars didn't just bend, it twisted, spiraling inward toward the object in helical patterns that violated every model we have for gravitational fields. The distortion created interference patterns in the cosmic microwave background radiation, echoes of the Big Bang itself being warped by whatever field this object was generating. Dr. Chen described it as watching reality being unscrewed thread by thread. The mathematical models we use to describe space-time curvature, the Einstein field equations that have successfully predicted everything from the precession of Mercury's orbit to the existence of black holes, they broke down completely. The tensor calculations returned values that were non-real, imaginary numbers where only real solutions should exist. It was as if 3I Atlas was interacting with dimensions of space we don't have access to, dimensions we don't even have the mathematics to properly describe. I sat in that laboratory surrounded by some of the brightest minds in astrophysics, and I watched them grapple with the implications. We weren't just observing an anomaly, we were witnessing a demonstration, a technology so far beyond our understanding that it might as well be magic. Arthur C. Clarke once said that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. But this wasn't indistinguishable from magic, this was indistinguishable from divinity. The gravitational readings spiked to levels that should have torn the object apart. We're talking about gravitational gradients stronger than those at the event horizon of a stellar mass black hole. And yet 3I Atlas remained intact, perfectly stable at the center of this impossible storm in space-time. Whatever this object was made of, whatever held it together, it wasn't matter as we understand it. Then, at 0434 UTC, the James Webb Space Telescope picked up something that made my blood run cold. In the infrared spectrum, hidden from optical view, there was a structure forming around 3I Atlas, geometric, symmetrical, a lattice of something that interacted with photons but had no mass signature. It looked like a sphere, but not a simple sphere. This was a multi-dimensional surface, a hypersphere whose three-dimensional shadow we were witnessing. It was folding space-time into itself, creating a bubble, a pocket universe with 3I Atlas at its center. And inside that bubble, physics worked differently. We know this because we were tracking a small piece of space debris, a fragment from an old satellite, that happened to drift into the distortion field. As it crossed the boundary, its velocity changed. Not slowed, not accelerated in the way an object falling into a gravity well would behave. It changed nature. Its infrared signature shifted, suggesting its temperature had altered without any energy transfer. Its trajectory became non-Newtonian, following a path that looked more like quantum probability than classical mechanics. It was as if 3I Atlas had created a region of space where different natural laws applied, a laboratory, an experiment, or a quarantine zone. I've spent decades studying string theory, the idea that the fundamental constituents of reality are tiny vibrating strings of energy, and that the universe has more dimensions than the three of space and one of time that we experience. In string theory, these extra dimensions are usually compactified, rolled up so small we can't detect them. But what if they're not always compactified? What if a sufficiently advanced civilization could unroll them? could manipulate the geometry of higher dimensional space to achieve effects that seem impossible in our limited three-dimensional perception, that's what I believe we witnessed. 3I Atlas didn't just collapse space around it, it unfolded it. It accessed dimensions we can't see, can't measure, can barely conceive of. And in doing so, it demonstrated a level of technological sophistication that makes our entire civilization look like bacteria arguing over territory in a petri dish. But here's what keeps me awake at night, staring at the ceiling of my bedroom while the equations swirl through my mind. This wasn't a natural phenomenon. This wasn't some exotic astronomical object behaving according to physics we haven't discovered yet. This was deliberate. This was a message, and the message was simple. We see you. We've always seen you, and we want you to know what you're dealing with. The governments of the world have known about anomalous objects for decades. I've spoken with military officials who've tracked craft that accelerate at speeds that would turn any human pilot into a puddle of organic matter. I've seen footage from Navy pilots of objects descending from 80,000 feet to sea level in less than a second, without creating sonic booms, without leaving thermal signatures, without obeying the laws of inertia that govern every physical object in our universe. The Pentagon's UAP task force has confirmed these observations are real. But confirmation doesn't mean comprehension. And 3I Atlas just raised the stakes beyond anything we were prepared for. 3 days after the collapse event, the object began to move again. Not toward the sun, not following any orbit or trajectory we could predict. It moved perpendicular to the plane of the ecliptic, straight up relative to the solar system's disk, accelerating at a constant rate that suggested thrust, propulsion, intent. And as it moved, it left something behind, a wake, a disturbance in space-time that persisted for 72 hours after the object passed. The Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, LIGO, detected ripples, but not the kind caused by colliding black holes or neutron stars. These were structured gravitational waves. They had harmonics, overtones, they carried information. The team at LIGO fed the gravitational wave data into a computer, converting the patterns into sound waves, the way we've done with other astronomical phenomena. What they heard stopped everyone in the room cold. It wasn't random noise. It wasn't the chaotic warble of colliding cosmic titans. It was a sequence, mathematical, repeating, prime numbers, the first 15 primes encoded in the frequency modulation of space-time itself, prime numbers, the universal language, the signature of intelligence, because there's no natural process that generates prime numbers. They're purely mathematical, purely abstract, emerging only from conscious calculation. Any civilization, anywhere in the universe, will discover primes. It's the one thing we can be certain we share with alien intelligence. And 3I Atlas was literally writing them into the fabric of reality itself. I'm a physicist. I traffic in empirical data, peer review, reproducible results. I don't speculate without evidence, and I don't make extraordinary claims without extraordinary proof. But the evidence is forcing me toward a conclusion that terrifies me, a conclusion that, once accepted, changes everything about how we understand our place in the cosmos. We are not alone. We have never been alone. And whoever they are, whatever they are, they've been watching us for a very long time. Watching, waiting, perhaps even guiding our development in ways we can't perceive. And now, for reasons we don't understand, they've decided to reveal themselves. Not with a landing on the White House lawn, not with a message we can easily decode, but with a demonstration of power so absolute, so overwhelming, that we cannot possibly misunderstand the message, you are children playing with fire, and we are the adults in the room. Consider the timing. 3I Atlas appeared just as humanity reached a critical juncture in our technological evolution. We're developing artificial intelligence that's approaching or exceeding human-level cognition in specialized domains. We're manipulating genetics with CRISPR, rewriting the code of life itself. We're planning missions to Mars, talking seriously about becoming a multiplanetary species. We're detecting thousands of exoplanets, expanding our understanding of how common Earth-like worlds might be. We're on the cusp of something, a transition, an emergence, a metamorphosis from a planetary species to something more. And that's when they appear. That's when 3I Atlas crosses into our solar system and performs its demonstration. Is that a coincidence, or is it a response? Are we being evaluated, tested? Have we triggered some kind of cosmic alarm system, a galactic equivalent of a smoke detector going off because the children are playing with matches? There's a concept in astrobiology called the Great Filter. It's a proposed solution to the Fermi paradox, the question of why, if the universe is so vast and so old, we haven't seen any evidence of other civilizations. The Great Filter hypothesis suggests there's some developmental stage that's extremely difficult for life to pass through, some bottleneck that destroys civilizations before they can spread across the stars. Maybe it's the origin of life itself. Maybe life is incredibly rare. Maybe it's the evolution of intelligence. Maybe most life stays microbial forever. Maybe it's technological civilization. Maybe most species destroy themselves shortly after discovering nuclear weapons or ecological manipulation. Or maybe, and this is what haunts me, maybe the filter isn't something that happens to civilizations. Maybe it's something that's imposed on them. What if there's a galactic community out there, ancient beyond our comprehension, that monitors emerging civilizations? What if they've established protocols, rules, quarantine zones? What if they wait until a species reaches a certain level of technological development, and then they make a choice? Does this species get to join the galactic community, or does it pose too great a threat? Do they have the wisdom to wield the power they're developing, or will they become a cancer, spreading through the stars, consuming resources, destroying ecosystems, threatening established civilizations? 3. I-Atlas might be their way of taking our measure, a probe, an observer, a judge, and if we're being judged, what's the verdict? Look at our world. Look at how we treat each other, how we treat our planet. We're a species capable of breathtaking beauty and horrifying cruelty. We've composed symphonies that move the soul and built weapons that can incinerate millions in an instant. We've eradicated diseases and invented genocides. We're capable of transcendent love and tribal hatred. We're a paradox, a contradiction, a cosmic experiment that's still very much in progress. If I were an advanced alien civilization, would I trust us? Would I want us spreading through the galaxy, carrying our violence and our short-sightedness to other worlds? Or would I keep us contained, quarantined in our little solar system until we either mature or destroy ourselves? The physicist in me rebels against these thoughts. This is speculation, not science, but the data doesn't care about my comfort level. The data is telling us something profound is happening, and we ignore it at our peril. After 3I Atlas departed the inner solar system, observatories lost track of it. Not because it moved beyond our detection capabilities and we can track objects in the Kuiper belt, billions of miles from the sun. We lost it because it disappeared. One moment it was there, accelerating outward, leaving its gravitational wake behind. The next moment, nothing. No infrared signature, no reflected sunlight, no gravitational influence. It didn't fade away gradually as it moved into the distance. It simply ceased to be observable, as if someone had flipped a switch and removed it from our reality. But before it vanished, it did one more thing. Something that's been classified at the highest levels, something I'm risking my career even alluding to. It sent a transmission, not in radio waves, not in visible light, in gravitational waves, modulated with precision that suggests computational power beyond our comprehension. The transmission lasted 17 seconds. The LIGO data has been sealed, restricted access only, national security implications. But I've seen it. I've seen the pattern, and embedded in those gravitational ripples is something that looks suspiciously like coordinates, galactic coordinates pointing to a location 847 light years from Earth, in the constellation Aquila, a star system we've already identified as potentially harboring rocky planets in the habitable zone, a system where theoretically life could exist. Is that an invitation? A warning? A breadcrumb in a trail they want us to follow? Or is it a threat, a way of telling us they know where we are, and we should know where they are, and we should understand the implications of that mutual awareness. The James Webb Space Telescope is being quietly redirected to study that system in detail. The data will take months to analyze, but I believe when we look carefully enough, we're going to find something there, something artificial, something that's been waiting for us to grow up enough to find it. Meanwhile, amateur astronomers around the world have been reporting anomalies, lights in the night sky moving in formations that suggest coordination, objects that appear and disappear, transient phenomena that last just long enough to be photographed, but not long enough to be thoroughly studied. Are these connected to 3I Atlas? Are they part of the same phenomenon, the same presence, making itself known in small ways, preparing humanity for what's coming? That's why I asked you to comment your city, because I believe these sightings are increasing, I believe the pattern is global, and I believe we need to understand the scope of what's happening before we can begin to formulate a response. Here's what I know with certainty. The universe is far stranger, far more populated, and far more aware than we've allowed ourselves to believe. Our equations describe reality beautifully within certain bounds, but those bounds are narrower than we thought. There are phenomena, technologies, intelligences operating on principles we haven't discovered yet, possibly can't discover with our current level of development. We're like fish in a pond, becoming aware for the first time that there's air above the water's surface and things that live in that air, and those things have been watching us swim in circles our entire lives. The question that haunts me, the question I turn over and over in my mind as I stare at the data from 3I Atlas is this: what do they want from us? Are they benevolent observers, cosmic parents watching their children take their first steps toward interstellar civilization? Are they indifferent scientists studying us the way we study bacteria in a petri dish? Or are they something else entirely? So alien in their motivations and consciousness that we couldn't comprehend their intentions even if they spelled them out for us. I've spent my life believing in the power of human knowledge, in our ability to understand the universe through reason and observation. But 3I Atlas has humbled me. It's shown me the vast gulf between what we know and what can be known. It's revealed that we're not the protagonists in the cosmic story. We're barely even supporting characters. We're a footnote, a curiosity, a species that just barely earned the right to be noticed. And now that we've been noticed, everything changes. The governments are preparing. Protocols are being updated. Contingency plans are being drawn up for scenarios we never thought we'd face. The scientific community is being quietly mobilized. Resources redirected toward understanding what 3I Atlas revealed and what it means for humanity's future. But none of this is being shared with the public, not yet, because the question of how to tell 7 billion people that we're not alone, that we're being watched, that we may be on the verge of contact or confrontation with intelligences beyond our comprehension, that question has no good answer. How do you maintain social stability when the fundamental assumption that humans are the apex of intelligence in the universe is shattered? How do you prevent mass panic, or conversely, mass apathy? How do you help people integrate this new reality into their worldview when it invalidates so much of what we've believed about our special place in creation? But here's the thing. You deserve to know. We all deserve to know. Because this isn't just a scientific discovery or a political challenge. This is an existential moment for our species. This is the moment when we collectively realize we're not alone. We've never been alone, and the universe is paying attention to us now. What we do next matters. How we respond, how we grow, how we change in light of this knowledge, it all matters. Because I believe we're being tested. I believe the cosmic community is watching to see if we're ready. Ready to be responsible members of a galactic civilization, ready to set aside our petty tribal conflicts and recognize ourselves as one species, one planet, one small but precious node in a vast network of conscious minds scattered across the stars. 3I Atlas collapsed space around itself to show us what's possible, to demonstrate that the laws we think are absolute can be transcended, to prove that there are levels of existence, dimensions of reality, technologies, and consciousness so far beyond our current understanding that we need to fundamentally reconsider everything we think we know. That terrifies me. But it also fills me with a strange hope. Because if they're watching, if they're testing, that means they think we might pass. That means they see potential in us. That means despite our flaws, despite our violence and our ignorance, there's something about humanity worth preserving, worth nurturing, worth inviting into the larger cosmic conversation. We stand at a threshold. On one side, the comfortable ignorance of thinking we're alone, that the universe is ours to explore and exploit as we see fit. On the other side, the terrifying and exhilarating reality that we're part of something incomprehensibly vast, that we're children becoming aware of the adult world for the first time, and that we have to grow up fast if we want to survive what's coming. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if 3i Atlas will return or if something else will appear, or if we're about to receive a message that changes everything. But I know we can't go back. We can't unknow what we've learned. We can't pretend we didn't see space itself collapse and reform according to someone else's will. The universe has spoken to us in the language of prime numbers written in gravitational waves. Now we have to decide how to respond. Follow this channel as we continue decoding the universe's final warnings, as we track the phenomena that governments won't acknowledge and scientists are afraid to discuss, as we prepare for a future that's arriving faster than any of us anticipated. Because what comes next will define not just our generation, but our entire species for millennia to come. So tell me, comment below. After learning what 3i Atlas just revealed about the true nature of our reality, do you believe humanity is ready for contact? Are we mature enough, wise enough, unified enough to take our place among the stars? Or are we still children playing with forces we don't understand, needing more time before we're allowed to leave our cosmic nursery? And here's the question that keeps me awake at night, the question I can't answer no matter how many equations I work through. When the universe looks at us, when these vast intelligences turn their attention to our small blue world, what do they see? What judgment are they passing? And when they decide whether we pass or fail this cosmic test, which way will the verdict fall? The answer might be written in the next object that crosses into our solar system, or in the next gravitational wave message, or in the skies above your city tonight. Watch carefully. Comment what you see, because we're all astronomers now, all witnesses to humanity's greatest moment of transformation. The moment when we stopped being alone and started being accountable to something greater than ourselves. And that moment is right now.